Okay. So here's some controversy, and is one better than the other? Sure. Okay, so there, you basically, you know, saw in that assessment part, you saw a discrepancy between what is and what should be, or a problem, and you looked at your own values and beliefs, and what do you think about that, and do you work in a setting where others have similar values, maybe not the same, but at least similar, and would be open to that. So what did you do? You went to the review of the literature to learn more about that, and it sounds like all of you have done a review of the literature. Based on that review of the literature, you came up with what? A topic, you know, a problem. This is what I want to change. This is what I want to find, or what I want to find out. Okay, because sometimes you're not changing yet. You just want to find out how big the problem is. Okay, so you surveyed the target population, and you looked at the goal. You should look at the goals and the objectives, or at least the mission and the vision of your agency. And you look, if it's patients are involved, and they would be involved in most of the things that we would do, would they be receptive to this, or are there barriers? You know, if you're working with a homeless population and you want to come up with a DVD program to change or help in some way, help this population in some way, and you're going to give them a CD, what are they going to do with it? You know, they don't have any place to plug it in. And so, you know, looking at, you know, how are you going to get this information to people? If you're going into ethnic neighborhood, so my husband and I went to the Czech Republic, and I know a little bit of Bohemian, a little bit of Czech from my early years. I had to go to Bohemian school once, one day a week, or one evening a week. And so I learned a little bit, but I forgot a lot. So if I were, and then when we were over in the Czech Republic, we, they have they have three-year maternity leaves, and I'm thinking, wow, that's great. So you think, well, you got these women who are home with their babies for 3 years, and that would be a great opportunity to do some early childhood education or whatever you wanted to do. And so, but then you go and you look and say, well, how high tech are these people? You know, in the little village, you know, you don't know where they are, but it turned out that everybody had an iPad or a computer of some sort, so that wasn't as much of a problem. But you have to look at the group that you're going to deal with. But then if they didn't, most of them in the rural communities didn't speak English. Okay, they spoke German or Czech, but not English. And so I don't speak German, my Czech's not too good, so I would have to find somebody that could come up with the translation program to provide for them. Okay, so all these kinds of things you have to kind of look at and say, well, you know, how am I going to get information to the target population if maybe I don't have the expertise in all of the areas that need to be, or the resources aren't out there. And part of that is what you do with an analysis. And the little chart I have here, I didn't put the arrows where they belonged, and I thought, oh, I should put them there. And then I thought, well, maybe not, because if you were kind of analyzing this, really you would look at, is there any interest in change? Okay, is the target population out there? And then you have something here like very interested, not very interested. And you have forces that are driving this in some direction. These are arrows. I guess I didn't have to get them touching one another here. But maybe the forces towards the negative arrow are stronger, the arrow's longer, than the ones going this way. So maybe there's not a whole lot of interest. Maybe I'm working with a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is terrible. Okay, the politics in this organization are terrible. Okay, and so again, this is positive and this is negative, the bureaucracy. And then financial resources. Do you need money to implement, or is this going to cost the institution something? setting up an electronic health record is going to be big bucks. Not just for the purchase of the program and the training and implementation, all that needs to be done, but the other problem is every year you're going to have to pay a fee to that organization, company that made the program, and pay them for upgrades and whatnot. So, but maybe you're a big corporation, you have billions of money, and it's not a problem. So the forces are good in that, yeah, there's the money there. Or maybe you just got $1 million grant to implement whatever you're doing. Okay, you've got money, so the financial resources are there. Facilities, okay. You know, what would we have to think about in terms of facilities? Okay, so, you know, is there, you know, information technology available, or they have to go out and buy computers to put in each of the rooms or whatever? And are there support people, or are they going to have to go out and hire people to do that? And the more they pay the support people, the less they're going to pay you, you know, so, or whatever. So these are some of the headings that people would use, but you have to look at your own situation and say, what's the driving forces in a positive direction? What are the things you're going to have to work against? Because what you're going to work on is trying to minimize the effect of the negative things. Okay, so if your finances are not a problem, then you're fine. But if finances are, then you're going to have to look at trying to how can you implement this without it being real costly. So you might have see if people would be willing to donate their 5-year-old computers, or their old computers when they get new ones. And, you know, as long as it doesn't matter if it's a Mac or a PC, then, if the hard drives are cleaned off and you use them and put them in a lab or whatever, or put them in the rooms, maybe that would work. So you have to be creative a little bit. Okay. And then you have to think about, okay, so I've thought about the resources and what's my positive forces and negative forces, but then now I'm trying to look at other kind of concerns I might have. And one might be looking at what's called a conceptual framework, sort of like the overall idea how I'm trying to go about doing this. And I have some content concerns. Okay, and as I have on the handout here, these are the assumptions, validations that you use to support the change. I'm assuming, based on maybe what I read and the review of the literature and what I know about the people I work with, that they would be willing to change and move in this direction. Okay, there are no policies in the organization that would inhibit try to do something to make the change. Okay, but if there are policies that say you can't do something or you're limited in some way, then you have to think about, maybe you have to change the policy before you're going to be able to make much progress with your activity. And then, sort of prioritizing, if I have 5 objectives for what I want to do, are some of those objectives more important than others? So you could prioritize them and kind of just work with the top couple and say, well, if I don't get to meet the fifth objective, that'll be okay. The process concerns deal more with how you're going to go about the change. And are you an insider or outsider? Me coming in as an outsider to your agency and trying to bring about change is, a struggle. Okay, it would be difficult. And so, maybe insiders are the better people to try to do that. Like the girl who came up with the breast model is sort of like, she was an insider, so it was very easy to incorporate that in her patient teaching of the pregnant women, so that, and try it out and see what they thought about it. And like I said, even the dads put it on and practiced with it a little bit. So, and then how are you going to do this? Are you going to have a task force, a committee, or just an individual approach? And with your committee approach, you want to put some of those negative people on there. You don't want to have a big committee, but you know, one or two of those people who might be a little bit more resistant to change might be good to include on a committee to give some feedback and make you aware of that. You know, we're going to have to work with this and try to work around it. And then you try to come up with solutions. And I'm sure when you folks worked on picking a graduate program, DNP program to go to, that you had some things in mind regarding the choice of the school that you wanted to go to. And so, and I can remember my oldest son particularly, when he was going off to medical school, he said, well, where should I go? I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you and it didn't turn out well, you'll never talk to me again. You know, so it's your choice. I said, how are you going to make that decision? So you might come up with some objectives that would help. And so what were some of the things that you used as criteria to separate which school you wanted to go to, which one you didn't? What were some of the cost? Okay, so cost makes a difference. Format. Reputation. Okay. What? Okay, so practicability, because you've got work, family. You know, if you got a newborn at home, it's going to be hard to go away for an executive week. Yeah, how long is it? Length. Okay, so you probably have a bunch of things there, right? And then you went online, and you probably went to went to the program if it was in a local, you know, close location. And so you looked at different schools A, B, and C. Okay, and you're basically going to make a choice in terms of, you know, which one of these ABC programs are going to be the best one for you. But when you look at these objectives, some things are more important than others. Okay, maybe you're working just part-time and you're really not making a lot of money, so this might be a critical objective. The reputation of the program, you might think, is critical. Or the format. Okay, if you don't like online things, you don't want to go to an online program. If you like to sit in the classroom, then location is probably going to be more important. So you would basically go ahead and maybe, you know, this you know, work, fitting in work and family and all kind might also be critical. But for our sample here, we'll just kind of go with let's do these 4 critical. Okay, so I'll put a double line here. These are okay. You know, we can, you know, grandma can come and take care of the kids, and so maybe I can get away. And at work, they're pretty flexible, so I think that'll work. And, you know, is there a big difference between 3 years and 3.5 years? You know, yeah, 6 months, but maybe not that. It's important, but maybe not critical. So then you're going to set up, before you play a game, we're going to play a game, and then you have to have a rule, right? Or who's going to be the winner. So the rule might be you're going to select the one that has the most critical and most, plus the most non-critical objectives. Okay. And so you go ahead and play your game. You find out that, yes, the cost is reasonable. Let's say that's what we're asking here. and this one here, and this one is going to be $500,000 to go to, so that, no, I can't do that one. The format is a mixture of online and classroom, and so you may be somewhat negative about that. You know, you want more of an online format. So this is maybe the online format, and this is the online format. Location is around the corner from you where you live. Wouldn't that be nice if that always happened? But no, that one doesn't work there. No, that one doesn't work there, and yes, that one works there. And so you basically go down the row here, and what you're going to find, what you would do then is at the end is how many are yeses, you know, along the way here. If this is a yes and this is a yes, so it meets 1 critical and 2 non-critical. This one would be 2 and yes and no, so 2 and 1, and here we'll have yes, 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 and yes, yes. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 3 and 2. You got your winner.
The one you can't afford.
So then you have to think about, okay, you know, maybe I have to rethink this. If you don't like the answer, then you have to replay the game and be more realistic in terms of what your criteria are or how you answer the questions. Maybe, you know, this is going back home, okay, or, you know, or going to, you know, a school in Maui, you know, where it would be great weather all the time or whatever. So by playing the game, you pick the winner. I do this sometimes with cars, not too often, but sometimes I do that with cars. And that was the example here. My dilemma was that I had to have 3 car seats in my, 3 children, baby car seats in my car. Bye, ladies. Have a safe trip. Okay. So if I had to have 3 car seats for my kids, my little guys, in my car, and I had a Honda Civic, and I could get 2 in there safely, but I couldn't get 3. And so I thought, what am I going to do? So I used a little grid basically to choose among the cars that are out there, and wound up with something that did work out pretty well. And the CRV is what I wound up with, and I'm glad I did. But you know, I remember going to an automobile place, and the car salesman was trying to, you know, sell his car, and I'm taking out my little piece of paper and I'm writing down little things. He said, "What, you know, what is that all about?" I said, "I'm making a grid to pick the best car." He said, "Are you really going to do that?" I said, "Yes." And if your car's high mileage, or I don't get any mileage, you know, if I have to, you know, I have to fill up my tank every week or something like that, especially when the gas prices are so high. And so anyway, basically, you know, it does make a difference. When my son was picking medical schools, he had a list of about 6 medical schools here that he had either been accepted to or was on a waiting list. And so how does he pick the one he wants to go to? And I said, well, Adam, there was Adam. I said, you know, make a grid, make a decision matrix and see which one comes out. If it turns out to be what you want, you know, and what you were thinking of anyway, kind of leaning towards, then it worked. If you don't like the answer, then play the game again. You know, rethink what you're really looking for. And he did pick the school that came out tops. Planning for implementation, I think part of that is coming up with what are called performance criteria. So maybe you have an objective that by the end of the semester the students will have a solid, will be able to create a poster presentation. If that was my objective, and then I could write what are called performance criteria, which are sub-objectives, so that the student will use correct font size, we'll have some color in there to not just black and white, You know, so that basically you say, how do I know I've met my objective? And these would be criteria that you would use to grade. And if you're a faculty member, you have objectives for your course, and then you have performance criteria. That's the what does the student need to do in order to meet this objective. And faculty use objectives to design the content of a course. Okay. And evaluate the students at the end. So like that nursing informatics post-test, we'll kind of, I did write those objectives, so I don't own them, but if we were geared more towards the informatics program, then, then that would be pretty meaningful. Then you organize and try to get your implementation going. You've got to staff your implementation. You might find some of your colleagues who are really all excited about your project and say, you know, maybe one on the day shift, evening shift, night shift, or one that works weekends only, or whatever, so that you have ways to find people who are going to help you to teach other people how to do what you want to do. And then, you know, through all of this is leading the group. And I won't read through this little quote, but basically it says that you want to get people to think they're changing because they want to, not because you want them to. Okay, you know, it's like with little kids. You want to do things so that the child thinks the child really wants to do it, and not you. Okay, so sometimes that's hard to do with little kids, but it's also hard to do with adults. The last thing, there's a little bit on the effective use of meetings, and there's a great Monty Python movie called Meetings, Bloody Meetings, and it's about this guy who's trying to run meetings, and they're very disorganized. The people are arguing throughout the whole meeting, and and I used to show it in the class, and I'm going to get online one of these days and see if there's the DVD of it out there somewhere, because it's really a great little movie. Some of the key features, I think, if you're going to have a group of people that are going to come together, you have to have a reason that you're getting together. You don't want to just say, well, we're just going to sit around and talk. Okay, because what are you going to talk about? You know, give them, you know, I'm concerned that we don't have any space on our unit here where we can sit down for 15 minutes and do some literature searching. You know, I want a cubby hole somewhere. I'd like a cubby hole somewhere. So I don't know if you have ideas about that, so maybe let's go to lunch together and talk about that. Find out who should be there. Have an agenda ahead of time. You know, so when I set up for my class, I say, I have a little Post-it note over here. Whoops, well, it's stuck to my page now. But this is Friday, what I want to do on Friday, okay? And then in 2 minutes, I'll see if I achieve that or not. And then think about how I want to set that up. Always start on time. Okay, so if the meeting's going to be at 12 noon, be there at 12 noon. Okay, don't, you know, and you're starting, you've got passing out the agenda, or maybe you sent that out ahead of time, and you covered some material introductory in terms of why you're meeting, and then somebody comes in 10 minutes later, don't go back and tell them what they missed. Okay, they can catch that up later or not have that information. Announcements ought to be first. If you're having a staff meeting, they should have an agenda, start on time, have an agenda, have announcements. Do the less controversial stuff first. You know, talk about stuff that you're not going to get people riled up or have, you know, controversy. Take a break somewhere along the line, and then have for discussion only at the end. So it's something like, I want you to think about this, or next meeting we're going to cover this, and da 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 da. You set the next meeting date, and then you adjourn on time. Everybody has a time box. And if in your time box you have set from 12 to 12:50 to go to this lunch meeting to talk about something that Joni Gordon wants to talk about, then that's your time frame.